Pressing record. Hey, it's me and Sheryl Stutler. She's a legend in home inspection. She can
Right.
start a single post that goes 800 comments long and changes the world. And Sheryl had an interesting question today, which was, "Hey, you have your E&O insurance coming out," which I've been saying for a while, and I feel like a liar now every time I say it. But I have a note that was handed to me by my attorney yesterday because I said, "When am I going to be able to offer this to Sheryl and all of her friends?" And officially, my E&O and general liability insurance policy that we not only sell but administer, control, handle, we're it from start to finish. Um, we have the authority to do that right now, but we do not have the software set up. It is being set up by some very expensive software people. I don't understand why, but they're expensive. And we have that authority now in Utah, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Virginia. I say Massachusetts like it's a disappointment because I wanted Florida to be in that spot. Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina, with an any day coming from a couple of other states, and Florida and Texas and California, by the way, we're all in the first submission roles for all of our various licensing, because not only do we have to be an insurer, but we have to have a front that we're associated with, and we have to be an agency, and we have to be licensed as adjusters. I had to take an adjusters course and take a class. Anyway, so the long awaited and overdue, and coming out for many of you here in the next 2 weeks, not kidding, this time, E&O, and general liability policy, and soon in Florida, will be awesome for inspectors. And Sheryl Stutler has a question about deductibles. Please ask it, and then let's discuss in the most brutal ways possible.
I wanted to know, when is the deductible assessed? Is it assessed when we send over that we have a potential claim happening, or is it assessed only once we get to the point that we're like starting to pay out?
All right, so let's forget insurance regulations for a moment. Let's forget insurance policies and typical terms and conditions that most insurers go by. Right? You make a claim on a policy, they assess a deductible. That's generally how policies go. Um, let's just assume that it's you and me, and there are no rules, there are no regulations. We invented the first insurance policy, and we're selling it to pilgrims. Okay. It's, I don't know, it's some sort of like whale oil torch insurance, in case that burns down your little cottage. Um, if we were to make that a thing, and we were to invent professional liability, how would you want it to be? What would be the most common sense, practical way? And I know you know how to think through things in a practical and common sense way. How would you like me to do it if I could write it, if I could write the rule book on it? What would it say?
Well, I think there's other questions that go into this besides just that one, like in the um, Inspector Pro having their, pre-claims assistance, but that's only if you have their preferred policy, which you can't get unless you're like this perfect um, company, by my understanding, the conversation I just had with one of the gentlemen from over there. And, um, so, I mean, pre-claims assistance is the whole point of pre-claims assistance, so that it doesn't become a claim. So, what do we get, like with your policy? Is there pre-claims assistance with it too?
Well, and
And
let's put pre-claims assistance even to the side. We'll get into that. And I can't speak to that issue because I've never heard that there was a qualification other than simply being a client. So that's
nope,
news to
there
me.
is.
Well, uh, I've never seen Sheryl Stutler post something or say something that didn't ultimately end up being very, very alarmingly true. So, but I'll look into it. I always do. You know that. Let's forget pre-claims assistance for a moment. Let's forget all of the things that, I mean, no offense to anybody in the insurance world, but we invented pre-claims assistance and we run that daily. Like that's what we do, you know. Their stuff doesn't come close to what we do, never will, because they don't just write checks. They don't find a reason to cover something. They're finding a way out of it, right? That's their goal, is to explain to someone why their expectation should be nothing, and why you're responsible for nothing, and go away. You know, that those are their 3 points in any of their communications. Maybe they do it nicely, but whatever that means, let's put that aside for a moment, and let's assume that there was no such thing as pre-claims assistance. What would be fair? You have let's call it a $5,000 deductible on an E&O policy, because you know you're a big company, you run like a big company, and you want to take care of $1,000 issues yourself, $2,000 issues yourself. That's not what you're getting insurance for. You're getting insurance for the crazy person who's coming after you for something that has nothing to do with you for 50 grand, right? That's what it's for. So when should that deductible be assessed?
When we have to pay out is preferably, what I would like to see.
I like that. That makes perfect sense to me. Define paying out.
Depending if you're going, I guess, like I said, in my experience, what we've had, because we have had several people come at us over the years. One was a $20,000 roof claim with a few other minor items thrown into it. Our insurance company at that point did argue on our behalf without hiring an attorney, and ultimately said, they offered you basically $1,000, because we had offered to go out and fix a few items and stuff like that. The guy was like, nope, not having it. And so ultimately the insurance company basically went back to the attorney and said, listen, I'll see if the $1,000 is still on the table. I don't know if they'll agree to it or not, but, basically you're not getting anything from the insurance, and I'll see if they'll still step up and give that $1,000. And ultimately that's what it did.
So the insurance company, though, in that case, they had a representative, whether it was an attorney or just a claims adjuster or just an agency representative of some sort.
Right. It wasn't an attorney.
Whoever it was, they went to that attorney that was demanding money from you and said, there's no insurance coverage here because, our client offered you some money, frankly, more than you deserved, to read the inspection report and see that part where we said, have a roofer out to check this because of X, X, and Y, and you didn't. And, your clients have made their own bet on this. We'd be happy to write a check if there was really a liability here, but there isn't. So go pound sand. And they went away ultimately, or they accepted your $1,000.
They accepted the $1,000.
All right.
They accepted the $1,000, and the insurance company actually wrote the check for the $1,000, and then we mailed them the check for $1,000. So we ended up not having a $5,000 deductible or $2,500, whatever it was at that time.
Okay.
And then we've had 2 others that have come at us with letters that have ultimately just died on the vine. Mm-hmm. And neither one of those, we haven't been assessed anything from our insurance company on those, even though both of those, they did hire an attorney. And we are actually in our first actual have a court date lawsuit scheduled for February, that the attorney that was hired on the last 2 is actually handling this one as well. And so, like I said, we have not actually been sent any bills yet.
Well, that's impressive. Now, but I think that on the second, the last 2, where there was an attorney brought in, and it was, likely an outside counsel of some sort, right? It was somebody that was working locally.
It was a local attorney here.
So that local attorney has a billing agreement with that insurer. They're going to be getting bills, and essentially they're going to do an autopsy later, right? They're going to audit the whole thing after it's all done, and they're going to look at how much it costs them, what they have to put in their run rolls. Okay, so as an insurer, and I'm an insurer in some states, and regulated as a risk manager already in many others, we have to say, hey, here's a claims cost associated with this policy, so that regulators can have a look. Okay, and they're going to be putting that lawyer bill on that run roll. That is part of their cost of that claim from your policy. And when they do that, their system's automatically going to pop out a deductible bill. Now, the question is are they looking at only their hard cost and saying that attorney billed us $2,000 and we settled for $1,500, so here's a $3,500 bill on a $5,000 deductible? Or are they simply assessing the $5,000 deductible? And I would hope that they assess based on the hard cost.
Well, I don't know, because those two, like I said, as far as we know, are dead, but we haven't heard anything on them for quite some time.
They haven't played out yet, but that's the way this goes. They can go for a long time before they actually know. I mean, they might be sitting, and this is where they don't want to do so much accounting, and where the you have a diminishing return on this level of work. If the first month they were working on this, they paid a guy for 5 hours at a discounted rate on a deal with an insurance company, and your attorney billed them for $1,000, and you have a $5,000 deductible, they're not going to stop and have an accounting department audit it, compare it to the policy notes, send you a bill for $1,000 with a note that says you may be billed for more later, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to wait until it goes all the way through. I can't see, and I happen to be familiar with a couple of these issues. I don't see one of them being less than a $5,000 deductible if that's what you had. The other one might be, yeah, and that would be great. When do you bill it? You bill it when it's all done. That's the right way. That was the right answer. Yeah. By the way, your insurance company requires that you have an agreement, don't they?
Yes.
That seems kind of silly to me. And I said in a inspection group the other day, I said, inspectors shouldn't even have agreements. And immediately, my friend Nick Gramico comes back in a response to my thread and said, except for like every attorney. And I didn't have time to, play on Facebook that evening. But if I had, my response would have been, yeah, every attorney that wants to bill inspectors unnecessarily unanimously agrees that they should have worthless agreements. I did this with my mother today. We went through the history of, claims, complaints, all this stuff. And I do these claims reviews with our clients, and my mother's no exception. And we were going through the last year of business, which has been a good year for them. Been a good year for many of you. But then I asked them about the whole history of security home inspections, about 300,000 home inspections, and how many times they had paid an attorney many hours worth of work to argue the viability of the various points of an inspection agreement. Like, for instance, here's our limitation of liability. What's the first thing an attorney does when they get you in court or start arguing with your attorney about your agreement? The very first thing they do is they start pointing to old case law that eradicates the limitation of liability. And they start having that argument. Do you know how much inspectors waste every year in legal fees battling that? It's amazing. It's a whole bunch of money. And that's where all of your money is going for E&O, to argue with lawyers over lawyerly things that do not matter. Like, here's another one. almost every case now, the first thing that the attorneys do from the plaintiff side is they go, oh, you were using Next Inspect, or you were using ISN, or you were using, I don't know, HIP Office, whatever. And our client signed electronically. So we're going to spend 5 hours of your attorney's time billing your insurance company, billing to your deductible, or billing to you personally if you're, Patty Thornberry. We're going to spend 5 hours of their time battling back and forth on whether this was an executed enforceable agreement at all. That happens in like every one of these damn cases. So there goes $1,000 for having an agreement at all, doing it electronically. Then there goes another $1,000 for the really unenforceable, if you have a good enough attorney on the plaintiff side, limitation of liability. Then we get into the other stuff, the standards of practice. It's not spelled out. It's like, barely mentioned with the name of an association that, the client has never heard of. Whoa. Did they know what they were signing? No. Okay. Then that becomes something that they argue. We spend more money in this industry arguing about a contract that doesn't need to exist than we do with the ultimate argument that actually gets you out of it. By the way, what was your argument that got you out of the issue, the roof issue, where you offered the $1,000? There were really two arguments that got you out of it. Do you remember?
No, it wasn't one. One of the biggest issues is the guy was just a dork anyways, but he claimed that he needed a new roof. There was absolutely nothing wrong with his roof, but the next door neighbor was the president of the HOA. And, after the guy moved in, he's like, oh, well, your house is, had a huge roof leak and all of this stuff. Well, the house was a flip. So, but there were no issues and no signs of any problems in the attic, that there had been a major roof leak and all this other stuff. So,
right.
No, I don't really remember what
well,
it was.
Here were your two ways out of that one. It was number one, that you offered him $1,000, which was just a good business move. You said you paid $500 for the inspection, but here's $1,000. Whatever your issue is, sorry it happened. Wish we could have avoided it, but we couldn't. Here's $1,000 because we want you to be happy today. So that was your number one argument to get you out of it. Another argument would be that, it was a roof leak. Now, this guy was coming after you for like a whole new roof, but, if his roof was leaking.
It wasn't leaking. That's the thing. And honestly, I had actually done an analysis from the time we did the inspection to the time that he started in all this crap. We'd had 66 inches of rain and he never had a roof leak.
Well, because if he had a roof leak, if he had a legitimate issue, I guess there's three good defenses. If he had a legitimate roof leak, what would his move have been?
Well, you could have filed with the 5-year roof leak protection.
Exactly. And then we'd cover it, and then he'd have whatever money it was that it took to fix the roof leak. Simple stuff. But then there was a third argument, which was, hey, we did our job, and whatever was visible that day wasn't a problem. So why are we going in circles, spending legal money, converting that into an E&O plan that's, getting more and more expensive these days on a contract that has never helped a home inspector? It's only padded the wallet of a lawyer. Anyway, I'm sure this will get heard somewhere, repeated somewhere, and I don't care. Every time somebody says something about inspection agreements in this industry, it drives me nuts because these things are hurting you. I had an inspection, by the way, and I don't mind this being smarmy or being taken as, oh my God, like braggadocio or whatever, Nathan style. For those that know me well, or even just see my Facebook profile, you know that there are things I love to do in this life, and one of them is flying airplanes. The best way to fly one is to buy one. And when I bought the most expensive one I've ever bought. One of the things that you should do at that level is get an inspection. I got an inspection. The process was like this. Hey, guy selling me the plane, who's a broker, right? So he's like the real estate agent involved in the transaction. Hey, you know anybody that can do an inspection? Because I got this list of things that are like my concerns. He goes, yeah, oh yeah, on that field, there's this guy, and he's an A&P, and his name's Gary, and he's good. Okay, cool. What's his number? I'll text it to you. Awesome. Text the number. Gary answers. Hey, Gary, I need an inspection. What do you need? I need the carpets pulled up, a corrosion inspection. I'd love you to get a oscilloscope into those fan blades, and by the way, do a once over and look at the history of maintenance for the last couple of years on Sierra tracks. Bunch of gibberish there that nobody should know watching this. And Gary says, "Okay, cool." And I say, "How much, Gary?" He says, "That'll be $985." Like, okay. Can you text me your credit card? Sure. Gone. The next day, it was done the next day, and I reached out to Gary. I said, "Hey, do you have that inspection report for me?" He's like, "Oh yeah, sure. You busy now?" I'm like, "No." Okay. He calls me. 5 minutes later, I had my verbal inspection report. No agreement, no report on $1 million piece of property that is all moving parts, that fails regularly and can kill people very, very quickly.
I say, hopefully not in the air. Doesn't fail
yeah.
in the air.
Yeah, most of the time it's by the time you meet dirt again. But yeah, hopefully not. But what I'm saying is that we're crazy in the home inspection industry. We have some of the lowest liability of any industry, and we make lawyers think that it's time to be all lawyerly because we throw this contract in their face, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I'd like to simplify the contract at the very least, but I can't really do it until there's an E&O company that's willing to have a policy for the Stutlers and all of our friends that does not require you to have an agreement that says we inspect very little. We adhere to a standard that requires us to look at one window, one outlet, and we don't have to say anything about dead rats. And by the way, we're responsible for nothing ever. And even though every single home Scott himself goes into, every single home in the history, even before mold was like a thing, that Phil Thornberry went into, if they see a bunch of mold, what do they say? There's some mold. Like, we can test that, but like, there's some mold. Like, they say it. They see it and they say it. And yet, what is our agreement? What is our agreement required to say in this industry because of E&O insurers that want to pay lawyers to argue over stupid crap? It says that you exclude mold. Do you? That sucks. That sucks. It's so it puts us on the opposite side. It makes it so we don't actually like you guys do, and we do, and as an industry we care about home buyers, but then we write a contract that says that we don't. Doesn't make any sense to me.
It's true.
Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm grandstanding. Sheryl, what else can we talk about that will rub people the wrong way? Go for it. Lightning round.
No, you're right though on that. I mean, you think about the number of people that you deal with that have a sense of loyalty or fiduciary to you, like your doctors and your agents, and the most you sign is a brokerage agreement, saying that you have fiduciary duties or you don't.
Right. That reminds me, I've been buying up property, and I've been having a lot of fun doing it. And I'm gonna have to pull up a document here because it's been a while since I actually read one of these, but I was very interested. And it was where is it? Ooh. All right, I'll just have to remember it from memory. It was a DocuSign that my agent wanted me to sign that said that the first line of it says, "Don't listen to me, talk to an attorney or CPA." Do you know what I'm talking about?
What does that mean?
I know exactly. What does it mean? It means that you don't do anything or something. I have to go through. It was right here. damn it. It was a buyer broker representation agreement. And it says, I, buyer, understand all of the following. And it included, here it is. I got it. Here it is. Therefore, buyer is advised to do the following: consult with an attorney or accounting professional for any legal or tax advice, including legal interpretation of any documents. So what do you do? Like, as I read through this, consult with a mortgage lender concerning financing of the purchase. Okay. Contact the township assessor's office for the current status of real estate taxes. Do you do that for your clients, by the way? I know you've sold a lot of real estate.
Yeah, I will back research on property.
Right. Do you ever pull out your calculator and do the pro rata tax calculation yourself to make sure that it's right?
No.
I do on every single one of my deals, and I will tell you about 4 out of 10 times wrong. Sucks. Now, not big wrong, like $32, but it puts them on notice that you're watching everything. That's for sure.
I checked ours this year because my brother got a bill, and it went up about $180 over last year. And when you're homesteaded, the maximum they can bring to raise it is 3%, or the cost of something, I forget the name of it, CPI, and which is actually only 2.3%. So the maximum they could have raised it would have been like, I don't know, $18 or something like that, and they raised it like 180.
Well, it pays to be diligent. So let's go back to one last thing real quick, which is this pre-claims assistance. Not really a thing with ours, okay? Because in order to participate in the E&O program, which we're launching, which we have offered publicly to be represented and pay an agency fee to everyone out there that sells insurance to home inspectors. And by the way, only one party has told me yes to that offer. You know who it is? Take a guess.
Who?
Our friend Nick Grimico of Internachi.
I started to say elite.
He says,
I was going to say elite.
I'll tell all day long. Yeah, they should have that one. This is great. Yeah. Anyway, I hope he hears this. But no, seriously, we got on the phone. I'm like, dude, I'm going to do this. I can't believe nobody else wants to write a policy that would, that they would not have any obligation to like ever talk to a client on. They just sign and drive. And he's like, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me, But anyway, it will require use of our warranty products because we're already doing the pre-claims assistance. And honestly, some of the E&O companies do a pretty decent job of working with us and understanding how that fits in and how we should be, working together to take care of an issue. But some of them just don't. And so we will take every issue you ever have and continue to do what we already do, which is, is there something we can cover here? Let's find a claim that we can just write them a check, because that's the best outcome. If we really have to make excuses, or if somebody's really out of line, then yes, we will write them. We will communicate back and forth with them. And our communication from a insurer level adjuster communication, that's customer service. That does not get billed to you. The minute there's a hard cost, though, which would come in the form of this, they serve you or they serve me with paperwork for an actual lawsuit or something that is so obviously going to become a lawsuit, or could or would if we did not hire a lawyer and a local one. That's the kind of lawyer that went and played soccer with their kids, or grew up with them through the legal system and getting their law degree together or something like that. Always hire an attorney that knows the judge. By the time we have to do that, there's an expense and that gets billed. Everything over the deductible is my expense. It will be my personal mission to make it so that nothing gets there. But reality is some things will get there. I wish I could avoid it. You know what most inspectors want me to do? They want me to fight it. They said, stop sending settlement checks like, like the other E&O insurers do. And I try to tell them, like, you know what? If I want to send a settlement check, that's my business. But if I want to bill you later higher rates because I decided to send that settlement check, that's a problem for me. So our E&O insurance will not be dependent upon your history of claims. That's just simply a matter of, how many times did you roll the dice on the roulette, on the roulette wheel, roll the dice on a craps table, and they came up, some idiot's going to sue you today. It's just luck. So anyway, that's it. I'll let you go. I got to go have some dinner or something. What are you doing tonight?
Not sure yet.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining me on short notice, as always.
Yeah, thank you for answering my question.
You got it.